Hello everybody and welcome to Cabaret Secrets. My name's Gary Williams and today we're going to talk about lighting design, and to help us understand how to get the best out of our lighting technician, I'm joined by one of those rare individuals whose understanding and appreciation of music and aesthetics is matched by his technical competence. Dale Barr, welcome to Cabaret Secrets.
Hey, how you doing?
It is an unusual combination of skills, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, you're taking a team of, at least 10 people on land and rolling them all into one person on a ship. So you need to have an understanding of technical theater, plus being a technician yourself, plus electrics, plus lighting design, plus programming.
It's rare to find people that have a real understanding of music and of what I'm trying to do as an artist on stage, how I'm trying to change the mood of the audience. The lighting is an integral part of that, and it's hard to find people that can have that same empathy with what I'm doing, as well as being able to then technically press all the right buttons to make it all happen at the right time.
My background is musical theater, so I kind of have that understanding of music and how music flows and where the key points are that things need to happen to kind of get a reaction from the audience.
Yeah.
So the only problem on a ship is that you're the sole person here. There's no one else going to join you. Like, if you have a problem on land, you can bring someone else in to have a look. Here, you're kind of out here on your own. So
how does the equipment compare on this ship, for example? We're on a big Royal Caribbean ship now, compared to what might be in a theatre on land.
You would never find this amount of kit in a venue on land other than bigger hotels and casinos and things like that. If you were to do a theater show in a receiving house, there's no way that you'd expect to have all of this waiting for you when you got there.
What sort of number of lights are we talking about? What kind of equipment have you got?
Right now here we have Mac 500 profiles, Mac 600 wash lights, and we have, I think, around 20 of each of them overhead, plus 144 scrollers in the rig. And then we've got a mixture of moving profiles front of house as well. We've also got the LED curtain, we've got the star drops, we've got the video mapping that we can do as well. So it's not about how new or old your kit is, it's about how you use it, I guess.
Yeah, is it necessary for entertainers when they come on board to understand any of the technical terms or the names of the lights that you've just been talking about? Does it help us, or does it help you if we know a little bit of technical information?
I think it helps as long as, if you can tell the difference between a profile or a spot and a wash light, that's great. A wash light is something that literally washes the stage. It's not defined, it's not a definitive beam. And a profile or a spot is something that you can focus and you can put shapes and gobos. And
a gobo is what?
A gobo is basically a piece of metal or glass that sits in the optic path of a light, and within that you can project an image of light onto the stage.
So it's when we see these shapes, these patterns that fill the stage, usually it just sort of breaks up the beam of light, doesn't it?
Yeah, it can. I like to look at them more as aero effects. No one really ever looks at the floor of the stage, but you can create some nice beam looks that can look quite spectacular, especially if they're being thrown long distances.
So it all sounds quite technical already. I know this is probably all very simple, straightforward stuff to you, but for singers and entertainers that are coming on the ships, what kind of information do you need from them?
For me, I prefer being very descriptive but very vague on specifics, unless it's a specific, like a position.
Right.
So, for instance, instead of saying that you wanted a certain numbered gobo in a certain area, for me, as a designer, I'd prefer to hear kind of big buzzwords. Like if you were to say you want something big, bold, and punchy, you can really, you can go for it. Like if you say you want to keep it really intimate and tight, and just descriptive words, really. They don't have to be technical words, but very descriptive in how it would make someone feel.
So I could say things like, this is it's an exciting up-tempo number, or it's a soft, gentle ballad, or I want this to be crazy at the end and everything thrown at it.
Yeah,
it can be just as in normal everyday language like that, and you'll get it.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there's nothing worse than, firstly, someone trying to speak technical language to you that doesn't really understand it, and secondly, being restricted by someone being on a ship one time, liking what they saw once, and trying to recreate that so specifically every time that it doesn't let another technician have a creative input to your show, and generally will then not lose interest in the show, but you know, if you let someone's creative flow go with that show, they're going to care about that show. They're going to look after that show.
That's a really good point. Years ago, I remember we'd just finished touring a show in the UK called The Legend of Sinatra. We toured with a lighting plot for that show, and I was doing a very similar show on the ship. So I just thought, well, this is great. I'll use the lighting plot that we toured with because it's very, very specific and it's going to make me look very professional. It's going to make me look like I know what I'm doing. And the guys didn't like it at all. They were actually quite upset about it. And I remember one of them said, "You're not letting us do our job." And I said, "What are you talking about? I'm giving you everything you need to do your job well." And it took me years to actually understand, but now I get it. I was taking away any opportunity for them to be creative.
Everybody wants to feel like they're a part of that performance, and they've put something into that performance to make it happen.
We're enormously restricted on time as well, aren't we?
Yeah, I mean, I know different light techs that work in different ways. Personally, I light over a rehearsal because I can hear the show and the feel of the show and the flow of the show. So my preference is, and I'll always ask the entertainer when they get here, are you going to run the show in rehearsal? Because I know some entertainers, especially if it's a band that don't use the orchestra, they'll maybe come in and they'll just do a sound check. They won't run the show. I'll have no idea what's going on. I'll always ask if they're going to run the show and if they're going to run the show in order. And if they can do that, then I can program over the rehearsal and feel the same things as I will do later on that night during the show. Now, I program a show in around an hour, 40 minutes to an hour.
So almost in real time as it's happening.
Yeah, but
that's quite fast, isn't it?
That is quite fast, but I've been on this ship for a reasonable amount of time and been able to set my lighting desk or console up the way I want it, and it becomes really simple at that point.
What's the best way for guest entertainers on ships to work? How much information should we give in advance?
I like to have information in advance, especially if it's a little bit of a bigger show or more of a production, because even just looking down a set list, you can tell if you're going to put floor units out, if you're going to need to bring extra smoke machines in, haze machines in. It just gives you that little bit more time to prepare the setup, not necessarily the programming of it, but the setup. And
on my lighting plot, I do what you suggested and have, a few bullet points. You know, it gets exciting here, or then it goes into a ballad, or I want to change here, I'm going to come downstage. I also recently, as you know, started giving the lighting guys a little plan, there's a little plan of the stage, and I've named certain areas. So there's an upstage area or downstage, maybe an area by the piano, and I've said, well, that's area 1, that's area 2. And so when I'm in the plot, I can say, Area 2, I'm going to be at Area 2, then I'm going to move to Area 3 at this point. And I worried when I did that in case that was too much information and too specific. Do you think it works or not?
Well, it works for my programming method because I can see where you're going to be before you get there. So I can then kind of preempt where you're going to be next.
When I'm rehearsing my show, which of course I do in order, the whole thing from beginning to end, I block the show as well. So I make sure I stand in the places where I'm going to stand during the performance. So again, you can see where I'm going to be. Yeah,
I've been caught out too many times of a singer doing a rehearsal, stood on 0 and lit the whole
thing. You say 0, you mean downstage center?
Yeah. And lit the whole thing around the guy or girl, and then it gets to the show and they're walking all over the stage.
Yeah. The way I've found generally it works is that I'll before the rehearsal I'll maybe chat with the lighting guy for 15 minutes and just go through the running order, a few little, this is a particularly key thing, you might want to spend a bit of extra time on here, this is straightforward and so on. Do the rehearsal, and generally, like you, they program most of it during the rehearsal, and maybe they need another half hour to finish off, and then I'll sit down with them and they'll fire off all the cues. Bam, 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 bam. We'll go through the whole show so I can just see and say, actually, that's not right there, or that's fantastic. Or sometimes they do things and I think, oh, that's really interesting, so I like it, but that means I'm going to have to stand in a different place. But sometimes I'm working with lighting guys who are not as fast as you or not as fast as others, and it is a real challenge. And I'm actually finding often these days I'm spending more time with the lights than I do with the band or anything, much more time actually. And sometimes I can be spending 2 hours or more sitting with the lighting guy, and it takes it right up to showtime. I mean, I have to, sometimes I'm literally running out of the theatre back to the room to quickly get changed and run back to the theatre to do the show. Almost the show's the last thing on my mind, you know. Are there ways that you can advise that we can help to speed up the process?
Given the information in advance, those buzzwords that we talked about, you know, even if it's just a quick rundown of the show, you know, song 1, song 2, and the general feel of it, that can speed things up a lot.
And it's fair to say for us entertainers, we need to appreciate that, you know, the world doesn't revolve around us and our show, that there are lots of other things going on, even though for us it's the most important thing. But, you know, we've got to be realistic and really keep things simple. Sometimes I'll even change the running order. If there's something that I know is complicated to light, I won't even do it. I'll change it because I'm going to make a rod for my own back.
You've got to understand that the light guy needs time, the orchestra needs time, the sound tech needs time. If you've got stage movements, the production manager needs time, the video guys need time. And I think all of that needs to be taken into consideration when putting together a show. You know, I've had guest acts that say, I'm going to need 5 hours lighting programming.
They're not your favourite acts?
No, it's
I mean, it's crazy. That's crazy. I normally allow an hour and a half with the band, and so either side of that there might be another half hour setup and a bit of tech before the band get there, an hour and a half with the band maximum, that's maximum, and maybe another half hour with the light guy. If I'm going to require more than 2.5 hours of people's time in the theatre, I know it's going to raise eyebrows. People are going to think, oh, this is a high maintenance act, this is I need to change the show. If that's the way that it is, it's not right for this kind of work for what we're doing, right?
Yeah.
Really, I think, unless it's a real special thing, a very unusually large production that's kind of a one-off coming onto ships, not very often. But for a normal jobbing act, we need to keep things simple enough to be able to work effectively within that rehearsal and setup schedule.
Yeah, sure. The most important thing I can stress is the team part of it, because we're all here creating, you know, it's your show, but we're creating that for you and with you.
Everybody really cares passionately about what they do, and sometimes it's easy for us as artists for our egos to get the better of us and to start throwing a bit of a wobbler because somebody's not doing something that we want. But, you know, there are people's feelings involved, and everybody's trying to do the best that they can for us, for our show, right?
Yeah, for sure. And I think it's a real special thing when you can pull together and put on a good production, and afterwards everybody can say, yeah, that was a great show. Going back to what we were saying before, it's really, really nice when you can have that creative input, and not just, you know, in lighting. Maybe a sound tech or a member of the orchestra can say, how about we try doing this over here? And when you see that, and when you have the little bit of extra time and leeway to do that, it's actually really nice to think that, you know, and for us guys, you know, the backstage guys, we don't get seen, so that's kind of our outlet to kind of say, you know, I did that. And even though the audience may not know, the entertainer knows, and they'll remember that. You know, they'll remember that you cared and you spent the time on it.
Thank you for listening to this Cabaret Secrets podcast. If you've got any comments or questions, please visit cabaretsecrets.com, where you'll also find details of the Cabaret Secrets book, an indispensable guide on how to create your own show, travel the world, and get paid to do what you love.